Welcome to NMI's Payment Playbook podcast. NMI delivers powerful, scalable, embedded payment solutions for ISOs, software vendors, and payment professionals. This podcast offers thoughtful conversations to help you unlock growth, innovate fearlessly, and thrive in the payments landscape. NMI, powering endless possibilities in payments.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to NMI's Payment Playbook podcast. I'm Greg Myers, host of the show, and on today's episode, our special guest is Kate Hampton, the Chief Strategy Officer here at NMI. This is the third episode in our three-part series on how consumers influence the payments ecosystem. As a quick reminder, the first episode in the series, I spoke with Tiffany Johnson about how Gen Z and millennials are influencing the payments ecosystem. And in the second episode, I spoke with the CEO, Vijay Sandhi, about how the younger generations are influencing payment technology. And I suggest that you go back and listen to both of those episodes. So today, we're going to be discussing Omnichannel and the expectations consumers have today, as well as how payment orchestration is making Omnichannel possible. So Kate, with all of that, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, well, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Certainly. So currently, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at NMI, where I oversee strategy, clearly, corporate development, and M&A. I have been in payments for 18 years now, specifically payments acceptance, and I worked at companies like Accelerated Payment Technologies. They were the pioneers back in the day in integrated payments when integrated payments was brand new and the revolutionary thing. Global Payments, a company called Entrada, which is a SaaS platform for property managers, where we built out a PayFac-powered, industry-leading payment solution. And now I'm at NMI.
Awesome. Well, let's start with Omnichannel. Can you give us a basic definition?
Certainly. Omnichannel, to put it simply, all it means is consistent, connected, and seamless shopping experience across multiple channels. And these channels are in person, mobile, online, unattended. But the important step of this strategy is the payment step, which we're here to talk about.
Great. What are the consumers' expectations today, or maybe asked in a different or better way, what are their pain points when it comes to the shopping experience?
So that is a very broad question that we can take in many directions. But if I had to boil down the answer, it's going to be they want to eliminate friction. And friction can come from, for instance, seeking information and decision making. So take, for instance, as a consumer, as the card holder, do you guys take Apple Pay or card only? Can I tap? Can I dip? Can I pay in app, or do I have to do it at register? And so what consumers want is optionality in all of those, but more importantly, contextuality, which means seamlessly being presented with the option that makes the most sense for them at the particular time.
So let's talk about it now from the merchant perspective. And obviously, consumers want to pay the way they want to pay with as little friction as possible, as you just mentioned. But what makes this hard or challenging for the merchants?
For the merchants, so if you think about who they are, merchants are experts in things other than payments. They can make the best coffee in town. They can deliver the best pizza. They can provide the best CPA advice around in the whole county. And so what merchants have to do is they have to entrust their customer experience to someone who understands their needs, but also their customers. And that's a tricky thing to do, right? And with more and more merchant accounts being issued through software versus traditional payments like a payment terminal from your local bank, the message that we are getting is clear. Consumer experience is important to merchants. That's the first one. And the experience is an extension of their brand. The coffee shop wants a certain experience for someone who comes to get their daily latte. The best CPA advisor in the county, they want a frictionless experience for their customers. So when they come to get their taxes, they can have a certain experience without having to think too hard about the payment. They want to focus on the service that they provide and then give them the best experience possible.
And how do you talk to the NMI stakeholders like the ISOs and the ISVs and banks and others about this topic of omnichannel? What advice do you give them?
That's an interesting question because the merchants in this instance are our customers. NMI serves ISOs, ISVs, banks, other fintech innovators. And so the advice that we give to them, to these stakeholders, is what we just said a minute ago. And that is consumer experience is important to merchants. That experience is an extension of their brand, and the payment is a critical part of their customers' experience. And so omnichannel, it has been around for a while, right? It's no longer a nice to have, but these channels, they continue evolving. You have tap to mobile, which is fairly newish in the US, right? That wasn't really a thing 5 years ago. However, omnichannel it's just a new channel that was added. So what we advise our customers to do as well is when they are thinking about their omnichannel strategy is to build future-proof to stay ahead of the curve.
When you think about, you put yourself in the merchant shoes, they're running a business. Obviously, they want to have payment options. They want to have different ways to sell. And I think, we've talked in other episodes about COVID and how it's accelerated some things, but it just seems like there's so much today between everyone has to sell online. You want to sell through social media channels. You want to sell in a retail environment. You want to sell on the go. It just seems overwhelming. So do you find that the NMI stakeholders like the ISOs and the ISVs, are they in a lot of ways providing guidance and consulting to these small businesses about, to your point, the future-proofing their business? Is it end up being more consultative than it does transactional in some ways?
It absolutely does. And entrusting that experience to someone, to a provider, is a really big step, not just for the merchant themselves, but also for our partner, the ISO, the ISV, because they look to someone like NMI to help them weave together the right solution or give them enough ability to build what is appropriate for that particular experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about payment orchestration. So can you give us the definition of payment orchestration?
Payment orchestration in payments specifically, it just means configuration and coordination. It's a pretty vague term. This orchestration and configuration, that means across either channels or payment types and methods, geographies, or even customer-specific use cases. The objective of orchestration is to take something that is complex, right? You have all of these omni-channel, you have these multiple channels, you have multiple use cases, maybe multiple processors. It is to curate something simple and intentional for the end user. And the orchestration really is means of creating a differentiated experience in this context.
Is it a technology?
It's a means. The term is often applied to technology, right? We're an orchestration platform, for instance. And I don't mean NMI, just generally like somebody making a statement, a super gateway saying we're orchestration platform. But orchestration to me means it's a vehicle to delivering differentiation.
I like that definition. So why is it so important when it comes to omnichannel?
Omnichannel, all it does, it offers optionality. It's the ingredients. You can design and curate the best experience for the consumer, for the cardholder, your customer, right? It gives you the ingredients, but orchestration is what curates that differentiated experience. Orchestration is the means to the differentiated experience.
What does good payments orchestration look like, or what's the value?
So ironically enough, good payment orchestration doesn't look like anything because it's invisible. But a sign of payment orchestration done right is the consumer does not have to think when making a payment because the experience was intelligently, painstakingly curated for them. The value is a broader topic, and it depends on the stakeholder, anything from superior experience, differentiation, future-proofing, less customer calls, you name it. Orchestration, though, if I had to boil it down, is so commonplace now that these values are non-negotiable anymore. So you have, for instance, majority of SaaS platforms that curate differentiated payment experience. they're really orchestrators. If you think about it, they take the use case, how users of their product are going to interact with it, and then they weave together a solution that presents itself at the right time. Or even retailers that have an omnichannel strategy, they're really the orchestrators because they orchestrated what is appropriate for their target market.
That makes sense. Well, as we're coming towards the end of the show, if you don't mind, would you sort of connect the dots for everyone between the customer expectations, omnichannel, more from kind of the merchant view, and then this payment orchestration concept? Can you kind of connect the dots for everyone?
For sure. So all three that you mentioned, they go hand in hand, right? Customers expect a curated experience. The payment orchestration is the means of curating that experience. And omnichannel offers optionality from which that experience can be curated. And then that's putting the bow on it.
Okay. Thanks for doing that. And Kate, thank you so much for your time today and for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Absolutely. This wraps up our 3-part series on how consumers influence the payments ecosystem. Stay tuned for the next series about industry trends, which will be coming soon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to NMI's Payment Playbook podcast. To subscribe or learn more about our flexible, modular approach to embedded payment solutions, visit nmi.com/resources/podcasts.